So today's topic is advanced leadership and communication skills. And it's a really neat topic that is going to be really useful because a lot of people out there right now are talking about leadership, communication skills, and really wanting to advance it past the typical status quo of leadership and what that all means. A term that's been going around for quite a while is outside of the box. But even saying outside of the box has become inside of the box, if you will. So we're going to expand even further into using oneness NLP, using new techniques, different types of tools to really kind of just plant a seed, if you will, to start a new conversation about how advanced leadership skills and communication can be used to really unite people that are in your presence, that are around you, and then also help to gain a little bit more insight into that internal communication that you have as well within yourself. So with that said, I see Jeremiah on now, so I will go ahead and hand it off to him and he can begin.
All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Jeremiah Rangel, for those of you who I haven't met yet. And Amanda just kind of gave you the heads up what we're going to be talking about. This is going to be a little bit different in terms of I'm going to be as authentic as possible and as direct as possible. So what we would like to do is make sure that we find who this information is for, because this isn't for everybody. This information that I'm about to share with you, this training, this coaching, is really only exclusively for leaders. And how do I define leadership? Leaders in leadership is people who choose to decide to step up in their life. They want to step up in their life, get the skills, the tools, and resources that they need to step out in their life and share it with others. This empath is for people who really want to achieve as much happiness, health, wealth, and success, and really contribution. So people who are world-class human beings, and that's who it's designed for. If people are dabbling in just personal growth, it'll be really good for them. But if people are really serious about really discovering, or if they already have an idea of what they're here to do, their life's purpose, and actually go out and fulfill it, which has to do with contribution, then that's what it's really for. So I'm going to give a lot of information. I'm going to be as clear and as direct as possible. My intention is to really attract the people who this is for and repel the people who it's not. And as whatever that sounds like, I've done a lot of studying in marketing, and that's what I found where when I was younger, I used to maybe share for everybody. Now this isn't for everybody. It's for people like you who really, really want to grow, who want to find whatever it takes to get to the next level in business and life and family and just overall. So let me start with this. NLP, for those of you guys who have heard of it, is neuro-linguistic programming. Some of the manuals for some of the NLP training might look something like this. Black and white, kind of two-dimensional. You get the picture. I'm just going to show you a few pages, a lot of words. Nothing wrong with it, but that's just not my learning style. When I went through some NLP training in 2004, I actually came at a higher level of NLP training. It's called HNLP, Humanistic Neurolinguistic Psychology. And if you may or may not know that in the late 1970s, this phenomenon kind of arose. These 2 or 3 gentlemen were studying with 3 of the world's top psychologists and psychotherapists. These people that were finding results in unprecedented results in their field of psychology. And so these 2 gentlemen really wanted to go study with them and created a system and methodology for anybody to be able to study and replicate and get information. So for those of you guys who have heard me say this before, Generation 1, and this is just my truth, my opinion, my experience, Generation 1 is a little bit more masculine dominant. Maybe not exactly to this extreme or analogy, but when they first started inventing the cars, it was a Model T, it was a little bit puttery, they didn't really have shocks or suspension on it, and how that would, I guess, map across to traditional NLP, it wasn't as heart-based. The mind is a very advanced supercomputer. When we get into a little bit more of the advanced leadership and communication, I'm going to explain a little bit how the mind is really actually the most advanced supercomputer that I've ever found. and people are just beginning to start to tap into it. Our training is really systematically designed for it, with spiritual and psychological technology actually combined. And so when I first started doing this training, I started to learn a few different things. One of the things that I learned was there's 3 really main kinds of learners. And when I went through this training, originally, obviously it's evolved since then, but a couple of the kind of learners are visual people. And this is actually one of the manuals that we have, but 45% of the people on the planet are visual learners. They like to see things, get information. And this is just some information I'm going to teach about yourself and about people. And once you understand people, you can really help them do anything. So 45% of the people are visual people. This is what I learned from actually my NLP training. About 40% are actually kinesthetic. Visual is I need to see it to learn it, which is if you have eyeballs, you might as well use them, is the way I say. Kinesthetic people, they're like, you know what, you can show me, but I need to do it myself. Just put it in my hands, let me give it a try. And then maybe other 15% of the people are more auditory. You know what, you can show me, you can do it for me, or put it in my hands, but I need to hear it first. Maybe I need to hear it and then internally process it. So out of like 100% of people, this is what I found to be true. The majority of people are visual. Second most is kinesthetic, hands-on, feeling. Third one is auditory. The majority of school around the world is taught more auditory that I found. They throw in some pictures every once in a while. But the majority of school is auditory. The majority of women actually are visual. Not all women are visual, but the majority of women are visual. So if anyone's dealing with women out there, I don't know if anybody has ever heard of a woman or saw a woman or is a woman, but women are kind of important to our species. And if you're going to be dealing with women, you might as well know is a lot of times they need to see things, especially in relationships as well. The majority of men are kinesthetic. Not all of them, but the majority are. Again, if you know these things called men, if you ever met one or seen one, or if you are one, it's really important to know that you might be needing to do things first. And this is one of the biggest things that gets off in relationships. This works in the home. This works in personal relationships, intimate relationships. This works in the office. This works with family. This works with children. This works with adults. This works in politics. Whatever. You name it. If human beings involved, this is how we operate. Again, the majority of people are visual and then maybe kinesthetic. This would be 85% of the population. Majority of school is taught this way. And a lot of people think they have a learning disability, but it might just be the teaching limitation, the way that the information is being taught to people and how it's taught to me. I like to do it, but I was taught a lot about it. There's even cartoons about it. In the United States, there's this cartoon, and I don't know if it's on anymore, but when I was growing up, it's called Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown had a teacher, and the teacher would, when Charlie Brown was in school, the teacher would sound like wah, 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 because that was just a representation of he was bored, he was checked out. The teacher was talking all the time, not showing pictures. We actually watched the videos or the cartoons and not actually have them do it. So first, what's most important is for the advanced communication and leadership, we need to actually set a foundation first. So I found it really interesting that I found out about this, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, right? The majority of people are visual. So then why would my training and teaching look like this? Black and white, no color, no pictures, not really too many pictures. So a lot of this information that's taught is not taught in color. It makes no sense to me. And doesn't have a lot of pictures. As you look through this book, this manual, see how many pictures. I'm going to go kind of brief, but I mean, obviously right away in the cover, but see how many pictures that you can see how many graphs. There's some words, there's some table of contents, which is really important. But as we get into here, there's some graphs, well, quite a bit, and there's some charts. And I'm just going to show you really quick. You don't actually need to have the details. I'm going to go over it. There's a lot of models. There's a lot of tracks. We actually get into this thing called how the mind works. This was a game changer. Your mind, my mind, part of advanced communication and leadership, your mind needs a picture of your mind to understand your mind. Your mind needs a picture of anything in order to understand it. If you don't have a picture of your mind, I guarantee it's one of 3 things that happens. This is how human behavior works. All human beings that I've found so far, 100% of the time, 100% of the people, including myself. As a human being, how the mind works psychologically. If you do not have a picture of something in your life, one of 3 things generally happens. The most common one is confusion. if I was started to switch my language patterns and speak to you in a way that's inaudible or too loud or in a different language that nobody on this call can understand, I guarantee there'd be some sort of confusion. And especially if I was really passionate about it. For whatever reason, if my audio went out and I was like, I might say something like that and it might get really excited and you might be like, well, what is he saying? Is it saying something really important? But there might be some sort of confusion because you don't know what it is. So if your mind doesn't have a picture of things, by the way, the mind puts meaning to information. In reality, whatever this is in between you and me, for wherever you're at and where I'm at, it's called reality. Whatever happening, it's called, in the spiritual world, it's called the what is. In the psychological world, it's called reality. Reality is whatever's happening. In reality, things are actually really not good, bad, right, or wrong. If someone says good, bad, right, or wrong, it's according to the observer, according to the judger, and according to whoever's putting the meaning to it. But the meanings can change pretty quickly too. But reality is just is, but we as a human being, 7.6 billion people, have our own unique perception of reality. This is extremely important in relationships because in my training, in this training, there is no such thing. We remove, suspend temporarily, good, bad, right, wrong, pass, fail. These 6 words cause so much damage in relationships. Good, bad, right, wrong, pass, fail. For those of you who have been through some of the training, and for those of you who understand what I'm saying, or those of you who are going to be curious about what I'm going to say next, is if someone says it's good, what we could say is according to whom. Manchester United is a prestigious football team, and some people think they're the best, according to whom. Some people think they're the worst. It's about preference. Some people think London is the best place in the world. Some people think Italy is. Some people think probably Antarctica is, and we can go on and on. Hawaii, Fiji, all of this great stuff. The Egyptian pyramids are the most beautiful things ever. The Eiffel Tower is the most beautiful thing ever. Well, the good thing is everybody can be right according to their point of view, but it's really not right or wrong because it's, well, what works? Does it work? Does it work for you? Does it work for the relationship? Does it work for the system? Does it work for this situation? So we remove, temporarily suspend good, bad, right, wrong, and pass, fail. And it's just about what works. If you try to do something, you try to do anything, and the strategy you try fails to get the result that you want, you try a different strategy, but you definitely want to learn from it. So in our school and our system, as part of advanced communication and leadership, there's really no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. This isn't just a nice positive thing to say. There's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. The first time I heard those words went into my ear holes and went into my unconscious mind, and it really released a lot of things from me. There's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback, meaning I actually, looking back at my life, have never failed. I have never failed. I am not a failure as an identity. Now, things that I wanted to happen, many strategies I've tried failed to get the results that I want, but then how did I learn? Well, I tried a new way, and that's how I got to where I am. So there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. It's such an easier way to live. You're never wrong. Now, that could be dangerous in certain relationships. It's not saying like you try something, and really understand what I'm saying. It's what I'm saying, if you're never wrong. I'm not saying you can go and smacking people and taking their money and doing whatever you want. It's not about that. I'm just saying is if you try something in a relationship and it doesn't work, if you're in a professional setting, you try something, somebody doesn't have the response or reaction, you can actually know what you did. You can know that if you're a visual person and they're a kinesthetic person and you say visual predicates, you use your words. If you're a visual learner, you're going to have actually particular words that you use, which is actually in our books and our training. We're going to actually break it down. We do a lot of assessments and tests to actually show what you are, to elicit, to bring inside what you already are, so you actually can learn about it. But if you're a visual learner, you're going to say visual predicates, things like, that doesn't look right. And it appears that you're not getting a clear picture, or I want you to get a clear picture of what I'm saying. Things like that. It's really, really, really simple, but then it gets really advanced as well if you built the layers and the foundation. So if you're a visual learner, a visual person, mostly, primarily, dominantly, and you deliver information to a kinesthetic, a hands-on, dominant, primarily person, and you do it with words that are more visual words, and you might lose them. The information not get in. Now, if you say, I'm right, because out of infinite possible ways, the way I chose to decide to deliver one information to you Didn't work. Well, it's right or wrong is kind of ridiculous when it comes to human behavior and human relationships, especially if you're in a business setting and you're saying, I was right. Okay, but what's the number one rule of business? Quick, think in your mind, what's the number one rule of business? Obviously, the number one rule of business is to make money. If you're in business, it's actually to make money. But in order to do business well, you have to serve other people, right? You have to build some sort of value. But if you're not in business, if you're doing it for a hobby, don't charge, don't make money. Just have fun. Do it as a hobby. Do it as a sport or activity. But the number one rule in business is to make money. If the business doesn't make money, it goes under, there's no more business. It's pretty simple. But if you say something as a management, as a leader, as a CEO, and you're sharing information and it doesn't work, it fails, what you chose to decide to do failed to get the results you want, you could fire the person. It's kind of like being in a relationship. Like if you're a woman and you're in a relationship with all these men everywhere, all these men go, men are terrible, men are this, men are cheaters. Someone like myself might come by and say, look, all these men, and then there was you, right? You and this guy, you and this guy, you and this guy. What's the common denominator? You are. Oh, okay. So then it might be something within you that's attracting this relationship, and flip the verse. So if it's a man, all these women are too clingy. All these women are whatever it is. It's just a general thing. What's the common denominator? And I can flip it in the physical world. Oh, every time I go somewhere, I went to, I'm making something up, by the way. I went to Africa and I got sick. I got some sort of dengue fever, which is probably like in Australia. And then I went over here and I got something else. And I went to Mexico and I got something else. Well, what's the common denominator? My whole life, I can't afford this. I can't afford that, this or that. There's programs, there's stories that we tell people. We really strip back and kind of like the Wizard of Oz, we pull back the curtain and say, what's the common denominator in your life? What are these patterns that keep happening for you? And leaders step up. Leaders, I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if you got the memo, but leaders don't make excuses. They find solutions. Leaders don't have solutions. They don't blame people. Really great leadership. I mean, you might have experiences. I've had experiences in the past working for other managers, working for other executives, working for other CEOs. And for whatever reason, they had some sort of limitations, mental limitations in their mind. You have to understand, in a business system, in a family system, if whoever's leading the system, whoever's at the top has any limitations, limiting beliefs, limiting values, limiting programs, limiting habits, limiting outlooks, limiting perception on life or other people, it will cause a limitation in business and in the family system. Any system where the leader or the leadership, whoever is at top, is not continuously expanding and growing will cause some sort of disconnection. If you want to visualize and look at it like the sun, if you can visualize and imagine the sun and it's a sunny day out, let's say wherever you're at, and the sun represents infinite possibility, or represents for this visualization, it represents the source of everything. And it's literally shining to everyone on the planet. Whoever literally goes out, opens the shades, goes out to be able to touch it, to receive it, will get all this information, all this love, all this light, all this resources. And any limitation within the mind, because the mind's the only thing that can limit the sun or the source, or however you look at it, metaphorically speaking, of course. But the mind, it's closed. If it's closed, I don't believe this. I can't afford this. We can't do this, blah, blah, blah. All these closed boxes that are limited by themselves. It blocks like an eclipse. It blocks the sun. Now, not only is it any leadership in your life, right? It doesn't matter on systematically or structurally, you in your life, if you're a business owner or whoever owns the business that you work for, or if you're the head of your family, at one point you were a child. I can just presuppose and assume that nobody just mysteriously arose at a certain age. You guys were born as babies like myself. And at one point you were a child, so you were taken care of, and you had your family taking care of you. You had your parents taking care of you. Now, one of the things that we look at during this training is if your parents didn't have all the tools and resources that were in this book or in this training, or that you've learned that your parents didn't learn, then you might need to get them for yourselves. As a child, we all want at some point our parents to give everything for us. We expect it. We actually can't survive without it. But then at some point we realize that our parents are people too, and our parents aren't perfect, or they don't have all the information or all the answers, and might not be totally healed. So we have to actually go and find it in some way, shape, or form if we want to get it. The tricky part is, psychologically, your mind puts meaning to things. My mind puts meaning to things. And if your mind doesn't have a meaning to it, there's confusion or rejection. No, I don't know what that is. Confusion is, this is what confusion looks like, of course, for all people all the time. So confusion is maybe a squinched brow here, maybe sometimes dogs, if they don't understand something, like, they kind of turn their head sideways. People actually become asymmetrical in their physiology and their body language. There's these unconscious tells that we teach people. We teach you how to actually read people, which is really important because that's how it is. Now, I will share this with you. A lot of people have heard about NLP, like through TV shows, where if I look up to my left, which should be up to your right, if you're looking at me, then I'm lying all the time. That's not true. You have to calibrate. You have to read people, just like in poker. It's like you go into a poker game and somebody scratches it. Oh, they're lying. Oh, they're telling. Oh, they have a good hand. Oh, no, you have to calibrate. You have to watch and see what they play, and you have to look for patterns. We actually teach you how to systematically do that very quickly. But it's not about guessing the first time. It's actually about reading and calibrating accurately according to what they're teaching you, what they're showing you. So again, if you don't have a picture of something, confusion. Most people don't know how to use their mind because they don't have a picture of it. But the mind doesn't exist. This isn't actually a Polaroid. I don't know if you guys got the memo or knew this, but this isn't actually a Polaroid picture of the mind. Nobody in the history of ever has ever seen a human mind, because the human mind does not exist in the physical world. Think about that for a second. No one's ever seen a mind. And I'll even go one step further. You have never seen any memory that you've ever had. You've never seen the past, or you've never seen the future with your physical naked eyes, with these guys, these little peepers up here. It's not possible. Think about what's in your left pocket right now. You probably get a picture of something in your mind. Think about the last time, or maybe even better yet, the last location of when you were on a swing set. Were you being pushed? Were you by yourself? Were you with somebody else? So think about the last time you were by a swing set, right? You can maybe get a picture in your mind, or maybe you've never done a swing set in your life, so maybe you don't have a picture, but think about the last car that you drove in. And think about, were you at the front left, the front right, the back rear, back left, right? So where were you? Were you in the trunk? I don't know. I mean, sometimes people ride in trunks. I don't think I've ever have, but so where were you? Were you on top of the hood? Were you on top of the car? So the point I'm trying to make is you're going to get a picture in your mind of where you were, what color the car was, how many swing sets there were. And the picture comes up just like that. That's how brilliant your unconscious mind is. It's a storehouse of all of your memories and the information. However, the picture in your mind of the swing and the picture in your mind of the car is not the car itself. Do you realize that the car that you were last in, you think about it, you can see it maybe right in front of you. It's not in the room that you're in. I hope not, because you're in there and there might be not enough room for you in the car. So your mind puts meaning to it. Your mind creates it. Your mind can switch seats. Even if you know what seat you were in, you can go ahead and switch it to the opposite seat in the front, couldn't you? And that didn't happen in physical reality, but you just did it within your mind. But when you're looking at the car, you're not looking at it with these eyes, are you? Because it's not in the physical naked room, or the naked eye, I should say. So your brain is a physical organ. It's got different lobes, it's got different hemispheres, all these great things. But the mind and the brain aren't the same thing. The brain can affect the mind, but the mind can easily influence the brain. And this is the psychological technology that does it. So if your mind doesn't have a picture of something, there's confusion, rejection, or fear. Fear of the unknown. I don't have a picture. It does not equate, does not compute. And we help you with that, because the only reason people understand their bodies more is because science over the years, last hundreds of years, has done dissections, shows that, or deteriorations when bodies deteriorate, and sometimes people find bones. Hey, look, there's these bones, there's 206 bones, and we actually know about it. Start getting a picture in our mind of it so we can understand it. The mind is the same thing, but nobody in the history of ever has ever seen the mind with their physical eyes. Nobody's ever seen a belief before. And this is what gets kind of interesting. I might have shared this with you before, but I might have not shared it with you before now, which is there's people who do not believe in what they cannot see. If I can't see it, I don't believe it. But I think it's kind of interesting because nobody in the history of ever can ever see their beliefs. So if nobody can see their beliefs, if I don't see it in the physical world, I don't believe it. Well, I believe in electricity, even though I don't know how it works. I don't know where it comes from. I see the effect of the electricity, but I don't know how it works. I see the effect of wind, but I don't see the wind all the time. I mean, I don't know if actually anybody can see wind. You can see things in wind. You can see like particles going or houses or whatever, but you actually, can you really see wind? So, but do you believe in it? Well, yeah, because you might feel it. So nobody can believe in something they cannot see if they cannot see that belief in the first place. The point I'm trying to make is your mind is super brilliant. And in order for leadership to develop, you need training, you need understanding. And I wish this information was taught to you when you were young in school, but I decided to open up a school. And when I went through my training, traditional NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's the best way to explain it's the language of the mind. HNLP, humanistic neuro-linguistic psychology, in my 100% experience and opinion, is a cut above traditional NLP. There's more techniques, there's more tools. It doesn't have so much jagged edges, it's rounded. It's more smoothed out, kind of like this rock. This rock at one point, I don't know what kind of rock it is. I call it, I think, a heart rock. I think that's where they come from. But it's kind of a cool rock that I picked up the other day at Crystal Place. And it just really reminded me of like self-love and self-care. I just really I love myself, but I really need to focus on that. But at one point, this rock was not, it was kind of a little bit, jagged at a certain point, and then it got smoothed out, and you can just understand that. So it's a little bit more about HNLP. Let me open up my chat here because we have a question coming up. But then oneness NLP, let me tell you where this comes from for just a little bit. So oneness NLP is, when I went through my training, I love the mind, I love people, I love bodies. Bodies are awesome. I have a 20-year experience background in health and wellness, being a physical trainer. So I like bodies, I like people. I think human beings are the most amazing things on the planet. Human beings are the most dynamic. Trees are cool, ocean's amazing. I love volcanoes. I love these things. I love Earth. Earth is, think about it. If you were to go to Hilo, Hawaii, I believe it's in Hilo. It's the big island in Hawaii. I haven't been there yet, but I want to go. There's 7, I believe, different climates. There is desert there. There is volcanoes there. There's snow. There's rainforest, all within like a 2-hour drive. So our planet is so diverse. The problem that a lot of people get in is they get pigeonholed psychologically or mentally. If it's at work, we need this budget line, I need to focus on this. When people get zoomed in too much for too long, it's like being indoors and not going outside in nature. We're not meant to be indoors all the time. Indoors is great for protection and for solitude and for sleep time and things like that, but also outside is really great too. So what was missing for me was the spiritual component. Now, I'm just going to briefly go over spirituality because this is the oneness part in oneness NLP. The oneness is a phenomenon, and NLP is a phenomenon, neuro-linguistic psychology, which is the part of the HNLP. So the oneness NLP, when I went in 2004, actually in the HNLP, humanistic neuro-linguistic psychology, in 2004, I went from teachers that studied from the original founders that had a traditional psychology, a master's or PhD background. And they went and trained with these people, these creators that founded NLP, but they added a whole much more to it to know that there's a person that's surrounded with this supercomputer as well. So we need to treat this person not just as a computer, but treat it as a person, which is really, really brilliant. But what was missing for me was a spiritual component. For since 2006 to the 2016 or 15, for 10 years, I received some advanced spiritual training, spiritual technology at a southern school in India, and which they closed their doors. But people like Oprah Winfrey has been there, the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, the Pope actually sent his secretary at one point, John Paul. It was a place a lot of world leaders went for these kind of spiritual technology and training. It was the first open esoteric school on the planet, and they have since closed down. we are the first Western esoteric school. And I want to actually explain what that is, because some people might not understand it. Just like what I've been saying before of your mind has an anatomy to it. So there's structure and spiritual technology in the spiritual world. And I use it very, very practically. The reason why I'm bringing it up, because if somebody's not into going beyond their own limitations, then I cannot help them. This training is definitely not for them. When I say spirituality, and if somebody Google searches their mind and they get some sort of religious programming or spiritual programming, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that's new that a person might not have ever experienced. I will share this with you. There's 3 main points that I want to share, and I want to see if this makes sense to you. When it becomes for spirituality, and this could really light people up or this could repel people, and that's my intention actually. If this is like, you know what, Jeremiah, this doesn't make any sense to me, peace out. Awesome. I'm glad I gave you some gold nuggets, and please use that and as you wish, and see you next time. But for those other people who get more curious and actually really want to learn more, I'm going to explain this. And then when I've heard this before in a different way, it changed my life. 7.6 billion people on the planet. One source, only one source. One source is singular. Let us just say it was like the sun, okay? Let us just say the highest consciousness, that which created the mind, created the universe, everything was the sun. But it's only limited to that. I don't know if you guys understand. I don't understand. But I don't know if you understand how much you don't understand, like me, how big this universe is. And apparently it's ever expanding so far. Apparently it's going to attract in the future, but it's going to keep expanding for a while. But if the sun was the source of everything, and that's only what it was limited to, well, that would be limited if you went to a different planet or a different solar system. If you went anywhere else, there wouldn't be that sun. And if the sun can only be available if it was up, if you're in the United States and it's up, but if you're in China, up is down in China from the United States. I'm not trying to confuse you, but you can understand what I'm saying. If here's the globe, here is the earth that we live in, this part is going up and this part is going down. So if the source of everything is up, in what relation, where on the planet is up really out, and where does it begin, where does it end? The point I'm trying to make is what I found. I've never found one person, this is just me, this is just my truth. I've never found one person who has the source of everything. They might call it God, they might call it the God higher self, they might call it infinite intelligence, and it's somewhere in space. If you were in a relationship with an astronaut, think about it. If you were in a relationship with an astronaut and the astronaut was so far away and you wanted to talk to your spouse, your partner, or whatever that is, and you yell at the ceiling, it's not going to do anything. You get on your roof, you yell with a megaphone, it's not going to do anything. You're not going to actually reach the communication information. This is what I found to be true for a lot of people. And here's why this is extremely important in business. It's extremely important in families, extremely important in your life. Is if you are the highest level of consciousness, think about this. If you're the highest level of consciousness out of the whole universe, what happens if you don't know something? What happens if your best isn't good enough? What happens if you don't have a picture in your mind of some sort of information? Well, how we're meant as human beings, how we're built and born to design is to be able to use each other or make use of each other. Not necessarily use each other. I'm going to use you. I'm not going to give you anything. Make use of each other. And you can make use of me. We're going to actually share. So that's how we're meant to be as human beings. I don't know if you've ever got the memo, but you were never meant to know all the information. For some strange reason, at a certain adult, maybe 25-ish or something like that, adults, for some reason in the collective consciousness, start to inherit at 25 that I should know all these things. I'm 25, I should have my stuff together. I should have all this money. I'm 50, I should have all this money. I should all this. But the only reason you have something or have achieved something is if you learned how to do it. I'll say that one more time. The only reason that any human being in the history of ever has ever learned something or achieved something or received something is because they've learned how to do it or they're open to it. So that's really kind of a key insight is if you have not yet learned, then you can learn. And if you're not focusing on it because you get what you focus most on in life, whatever you focus on the most is what you get more of. That's how the universe works. That's actually a technical law of attraction. So if you're having a relationship with something that's outside of you, that's far away, and you have to send some sort of prayers to it, which for a lot of people is confusing, where they send it out to like an iCloud and there's 7.6 other billion people. So they're a little bit confused of what order does it get to this only one singular source and this and this and this. So the point I'm trying to make is this is a strategy. This is a strategy that I never found to work for anybody. And what I mean by work is producing results, letting people feel free, letting people feel, fill the void. And at the very bottom of a lot of people's hearts, there's a hole. There's a hole that they're trying to get met from other people, from their parents on a very unconscious level. And their parents or the rest of human beings, humanity, does not have the ability to fill that hole. The only thing that can fill the hole is something that you can call higher than yourself. You can call it your higher self. You can call it God if you want. You can call it infinite intelligence. You can call it all that is. You can call it the source of everything. You literally can call it whatever you want with your mind. But beyond all labels of the mind, there's a presence. There's a presence that's I'm inviting to come into the room that you're in. There's a presence that I'm inviting, and you could as well, to surround you. You can visualize and imagine, if you wanted to, a golden light. So super simple, a golden light coming into the room and completely filling up and surrounding every square inch of the room that you're in with a sense of unconditional peace, total confidence. Even if you're having a lack of confident part, even if you're having a part that's feeling a little bit insecure, that golden light can go over all that insecurity. Even if you have fear, this presence can go into the fear. It's almost like if inside of you, there's all these parts, younger parts, disconnected parts, connected parts, all these things. There's this presence. You can call it infinite intelligence, all that is. That doesn't discriminate, doesn't have the ability to discriminate, doesn't have the ability to judge you. You judge yourself enough for everybody. So this is, when I say you, it's the mind, it's the ego is what I'm talking about. And there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing right about it either. So if you have judgment, if you have fear, if you don't know in business, if you don't have an infinite intelligence, because this is what the best leaders on the planet in the history of all time have ever have. This is, if you ever watch The Secret, this is actually the secret that The Secret didn't tell you. This is what actually systematically we teach. The secret in The Secret is really divine presence, divine grace, or all that is. But this is the trick. The mind will try to grab a hold on to it. The mind will try to control it. The mind will try to compartmentalize it. It's not really the mind, it's the ego, actually. Because the ego is the sense of self, it's a sense of who people think they are. It's the sense of the psychological fear of, if I do this, I might get hurt. If I go out and get the job I want, I might not get it. I'm not happy. I'm in this relationship. If I leave it, there might not be another one. This is all the ego. It's called psychological suffering. So there's this thing called the ego that wants to continue to survive. It wants to continue to exist. But the problem is, if you're existing, you're not living. And if the ego is the highest level of consciousness, the ego can be like a computer that's disconnected from the internet. A computer operating independent from the internet is a very limited computer. I don't know if anybody would disagree with that. A computer, any computer operating independently from the internet or some sort of server is fundamentally limited. A human being operating independent or disconnected from their higher consciousness, whatever that they call that, is at a fundamental limitation, a fundamental lacking limitation. How human beings have been programmed spiritually for so long, thousands of years, at least I found this to be true, but I invite you to take this information inside to see if it's true. But how human beings have been programmed is, if hurt or fear comes up, those are the two main drivers that push away higher consciousness. I'm hurt, push it away. Very unconsciously, of course. That's why we're here, to bring you more conscious of it. And I'll tell you why, because we have a solution for it, for all of it, all parts of you, actually. So if hurt comes up, fear comes up, this does not discriminate in business. People that don't do so well in business have more fear in business. People that do so well in business overcome their fears, break through their fears, bathe in their fears, moisturize in it, drink it, and then move forward. But they can only do so if they have some sort of connection. So the mind will try to compartmentalize it. Oh, wait, if we're only going to do spirituality, I need to have my fingers like this. And I only need to say Om. And I have to be in a lotus position. And I have to be sweaty and wearing some Lululemons in a yoga class. Yeah, you can do that, but it doesn't have to. the highest level of consciousness leaders, and I'm talking about anybody who's probably 100 million or a billion, any billionaire on the planet has a pure connection to this source that I'm talking about financially. Maybe not physically, maybe not psychologically, maybe not spiritually. Psychologically, they're probably pretty up there. Maybe not spiritually or physically, but psychologically and financially. Anybody who has what you would decide to have an amazing body has this connection in the physical world. Anyone who has amazing finances has this connection in the financial world. Anybody who can really get results, who can communicate well, has this connection, whether they know it or not, in the psychological world. So, and anybody who can, no matter what, they just, you know what, somebody just died or just lost a job or this or that, or you know what, this happens. There's a story I want to share with you, which is very interesting, of a man in a small village who, he was a farmer, but he lived very, very poorly. And one day there was these 3 horses that came into his village, just wild horses. And he wrangled the horses and had them, and he started to train them. And if he actually could use them to help with plowing and help with the soil and help with what a lot of people use with farmers, a lot of farmers use with horses, then it would actually help him and his family and help him make some more money. So all the villagers said, wow, you're so lucky. Like, look at you guys, you just got 3 horses, came out of nowhere. And the farmer said, maybe. And what happened was the next day that this farmer was teaching his son how to break the horses and how to tame them and how to actually use them. His son was on one of the horses, and one of the horses, got spooked and then bucked him off. Then the son fell and broke his back. And then all the rest of the villagers, they said, wow, that's so bad. This is just terrible. And then the farmer said, maybe. And then the next week, the following week, the military came by the actual village that these guys were in. They were recruiting young men between the ages where his son was 18 and 25 for war. There was a war that was happening, a war that was going on, and they were recruiting these young men. And had he not had a broken back, he would have gone to war and probably potentially died. And then so the villagers once again said, wow, like, you're so lucky. Look how lucky he is because he's got a broken back. He doesn't have to go to war. And of course, you know what the farmer said by this point. He's like, maybe. So the point of that is, if somebody has a spiritual connection or a connection, whatever the mind thinks is spiritual, remove all of the labels and it's beyond that. But whatever the mind feels like spirituality is, it's actually beyond that. And if you really want to be technical with it, spirituality and the consciousness I'm speaking of is actually beyond the mind. Your mind, my mind, the mind is fundamentally limited by itself. If you don't believe me, look at every situation you've ever got in where you've been stuck or you didn't go through, and how come you didn't find a solution for it. You didn't find a solution for it because, true or false, you kept staying on the same level that you were at and you didn't go deeper within yourself or outside the box, period. That's how all human beings on every level work or don't work. So you have the ability to go deeper within yourself, which is the equivalent of like an internet, the collective consciousness, all the information. But you can also do it with your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is a storehouse of all of your information that you've ever learned. But then you can actually tap into all the information of humanity. Technically, this is what we teach. If you don't know how, ask questions and come to a training and receive it. So if you have a higher consciousness that's outside of you, good luck with getting results. If it comes closer to you in the room, but it's not personal to you, out of infinite possibility, if it's limited, if it's only here for you, but for a limited time, and then it has to go to somebody else, and if it's for you, it can't be for somebody else. By the way, that's only can be created by the mind. All limitations can only be created by the mind. There's really no limitations in the universe. There's really no limitations in the spiritual world. There's really no limitations in the financial world. All limitations are really in the psychological world within a person's mind. And a lot of limitations were given to you by your parents. Where do they get it from? Their parents. Where do they get it from? You know the answer. Their parents, and their parents, and their parents. Generationally, besides eye color, hair color, skin color, nose sizes, all these things, pineapple shirts, things like that, our family gives different core beliefs and values that there's these programmings. The whole apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, the apple can go to a different field and patch and get training and come back and upgrade the tree, your family tree, if you really wanted to. So bigger picture is, leadership and communication is very, very technical. For a 16-day training that we have coming up in London, we talk about a lot of different graphs and pictures. This is all transferable for you personally. This is all transferable for you financially. This is all transferable for you spiritually. This is all transferable for you physically. All 4 different worlds that we get into: the physical world, psychological world, the spiritual world, and the financial world. They're not in competition with each other, and regardless of what the mind says, we actually work on integrating all parts of you. Think about that. All parts of you integrated, decompartmentalizing who you think you are, bringing all of your resources into work, into play, into, you don't have to compartmentalize. Compartmentalizing is really a drain of energy. At least that's what I found to be true. So there's a lot of information I could speak. Obviously, I'm a little bit passionate about this, and I can speak for a long time and share, but I'm going to get into this questions. If you do have a question, you can please go ahead and write it in the chat, but I'm going to ask this question, and because this is what we do a lot of these times. So this question is, what is the best way to support somebody that is stuck in a pattern of fear or pain? Often information is being received or heard through a filter of hurt or pain for this person. So for example, the offering of support may be heard as a statement of brokenness. So somebody might try to reach out to somebody, this person, let's do this because I'm like a visual person. This person here, maybe some sort of coach, somebody that's maybe been through our training is going to reach out to somebody here who's has a broken heart, so to speak. Maybe they think they have a broken heart, some sort of hurt they haven't fully connected or resolved. So this person's what's the best way to reach out and support someone that's stuck? And if they reach out, they might feel, oh, I feel broken. Well, if you have these skills and you have these tools, if I was going to say, hey, to somebody, it looks like you might be struggling. It looks like you're not lighting up as much as you used to be. You're not coming out, hanging out. You're not sharing as much what's going on. And they say, oh, I'm broken. Okay, well, for me, if you ask me, this is me. I can say you at a general level, and I would say me or somebody who's received this training. If I invite somebody, and this could be in a work situation, right? You guys have conversations in work and corporate situations, and emotions come up. You don't ever know when emotions are going to come up. So if I'm going to somebody and they might say, oh, I'm broken, and they get sad, I get curious. So I get curiouser and curiouser the more I ask questions, the more I connect with people. What I mean by that is if somebody says they're broken, oh, I don't want to talk about it, I'm so broken. Okay. If somebody says I'm broken, they're actually, they're giving you so much information. They're speaking from the identity level. They're identifying with their being broken. This is what we go over in a lot of the training. Not only do they identify with it, number 2 is they're associated to it, they're in it. It could be something as simple. So what does that look like? So when you think, and I'm doing it with curiosity, I'm not doing it from here, I'm doing it from here. And I do it because I'm caring. Actually, I really want to help the person. So when you think about you're broken, like what does that look like? Do you have like a broken heart? Are you like actually cut in two? Are you broken this way, horizontally or vertically? No. I just mean my heart's broken emotionally. Oh, okay. Well, what does that heart look like? Well, it's just red and black and there's a big knife in it. Oh, okay. Ooh, let's get that knife out. What happens if we take that knife out? Oh, it feels better. Okay, well, let's take your heart that's inside just temporarily because it's not your real heart, is it? Is it your physical heart? Oh, no, so it's your representation of your heart. It's coming from their mind. Okay, great. But it's also attached emotionally. You have an emotional attachment to it, right? So what happens if you take that heart and just move it outside on the wall temporarily? We're just going to put it out here so we can see it, clean it up, maybe put it to the heart spa and mend it, and then we can bring it back in. Oh, that feels better. So that's just one way. There's literally infinite possible ways. Even infinite possible ways I can share the same thing. So it could be something if somebody feels broken, you take in our training, it's called the internal representation or the mental picture of what's going on. Because for every problem that a person has, there's a picture and a feeling to it. There's those two things 100% of the time. Whether a person knows it or not, or is aware of it or not, that's where someone like myself or someone like one of my students can actually find it through questions, not like reading a book and blah, 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 but having this information go inside and actually being a part of their mental operating system, part of their being. This is my intention. So it could be something as simple as they have this picture that their mind created. It sounds simple, and it actually really is simple if and when you get to the root cause. You have to get to the root cause. In a computer, If you just punch the screen, if your computer's not working, that's not a very intelligent thing. It's just, at least in my opinion, it's not a very intelligent thing to hit the computer if it's not working. You might actually have to go into some sort of mainframe. You might have to go into the specialist to be able to, oh, here's exactly what it is. It's this bug, it's this glitch. You need this upgrade. You need to get rid of this program, reinstall it, whatever it is. If you have a car and a check engine light comes on, you punch the car, it might hurt your hand. It might feel good for you, might not feel good, but it might not change it, right? So find a specialist, plug into it, find out where the root cause is. Human beings are a lot like computers and a lot like cars, except they're way more complex. In the physical world, physically, if a person is communicating something, that the body will communicate through pain or dis-ease, period. All pain, 100% of pain and dis-ease is nothing more than the body communicating, but it's a younger part communicating psychologically. And it is, I got a little guy that wants to say hi, and he'll keep coming until he says hi, so I have to have him say hi. There you go. Hello. There you go. Got your little fame there. I like it. Gotta lift that guy up. My little man. So, what were we saying? What were we talking about before? It was really amazing, but he came in. Amanda, revivify me.
You were saying that the part that's coming up is a younger part?
Yes. Let me give it a quick drink. So if the pain is communicating, again, we get into this during the training. If a body's having physical pain, there's some sort of dis-ease. All dis-ease is dis-ease, meaning there's something that the body's communicating that you might not be understanding or getting. If you did, you'd be at ease, you'd be at peace, you'd be at harmony. This is actually a sign you're on the right track and the right path. You still might be on the right track and the right path to have the dis-ease, because the dis-ease might be the best teacher that you need to learn some sort of lesson to move forward, not only for yourself, but people in your life. So every dis-ease, if there's something wrong within the body, 100% of the time, for 100% of the people in the history of ever, if there's something wrong within the body, there's guaranteed something wrong within the mind. There's some sort of something wrong or limitation within the mind, a negative belief, a negative identity, something that's inherited, something you have to actually go generationally to clear, something you have to go when they were younger to clear, or something even further, past life. Depends on if you're open to it, but 40% of the people that we do stuff, it's past life stuff. It just is what it is, even if they don't consciously believe in it, which a lot of our people do. Actually, all of our students do at one point or another. But if something wrong within the body, something wrong within the mind, a limitation of program. And if there's something wrong within the mind, there's a separation in the spiritual world. By the way, the spiritual world and the emotional world are the same. The psychological world and the thoughts and images are the same. The physical world and the senses, you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, are the same. The financial world and the universal world are all the same. The financial world equals health, happiness. Like wealth equals health plus success plus connection. You're feeling spiritually connected. You're being successful. You're actually using your mind, so your mind's not using you psychologically. Physically, you're doing really well. You're healthy. And then you're actually, that's what equals wealth. Wealth is not limited to money. Money's included in wealth. Wealth isn't limited to money. Wealth is relationships. Wealth is success, fulfillment. So that's the 4 different worlds that we get into. So the best way, there's so many different ways, but for this particular thing, for you guys to start off, the best way to do it, receive the training, of course, and then ask questions about the brokenness. If they say, and you can test and realize brokenness comes up and that's the emotion, what I would do is dissociate, remove that problem from them that's inside of them. They're in it. Either remove them from it, so you can imagine it stays there, but you go somewhere else, or imagine you stay there and it goes somewhere else temporarily. I use the word temporarily because a lot of times the mind won't get rid of things that it knows that you need to learn in order to let it go. It's a teacher, and you'll continue and continue and continue in life, every aspect, to continue to get the teacher until you receive the lesson. And the lesson is something coming from your higher self. The lesson is something coming from the part of you that chose to decide to receive the lesson even before you were born, which, yes, we get into that too as well, very technically. Everything I talked about, if you haven't got the picture yet, it's very technically. All the spiritual stuff there's 0% loopiness. I'm going to give you 0% loopiness and 0% spiritual concepts. And the only reason I say that is because loopiness and spiritual concepts do not equal results. If they did, I'd be loopy as they come. but no, Loopy, it's actually very mathematical, very technical, just as technical as the psychological and the physical and the financial. The spiritual is the same. We just happen to integrate it by two different phenomenons, literally, and putting them together and work on. A lot of people don't understand what the mind is and what the spiritual self is, the heart center, and how to access that. And even more, furthermore importantly, actually how to integrate it. So one more question. We have time for one more question. If anybody wants to unmute themselves. Jenny.
Yes, I'm going to be addressing a large group of women. And I was just wondering if there was some information that you may want to share.
What does the women have in common? Like, why are they gathering?
They're gathering for education and empowerment.
And what do they really need? What do they need to hear?
That they're not alone.
And if they're not alone, what are they?
Together, connected.
And what happens if, ask your unconscious mind, what happens if, or higher consciousness, what happens if they don't know how to connect to their connection? Would it be valuable to give them a way to do that?
Yes.
So that's what I would do is, anytime you're speaking for anybody, anyone's speaking for anybody, it doesn't matter if it's your son, your daughter, your husband, your spouse, your boss, really just use your intelligence, really tap into them, visualize them across from you, and you can ask them, what do they need to hear? This really works well. Is actually a technique that we have during our practitioner training, is that you sit across from somebody and where you visualize them there and you see what the problem is and you see it from a different point of view. But you ask your unconscious mind, which is beyond your normal conscious box of limiting thoughts and beliefs, is you ask your unconscious mind, you go outside the box to bring it into your present awareness. What do they need to hear? What do I need to say? And then developing the relationship. So that's what people have to really understand. Your unconscious mind, all of your unconscious minds are an advanced supercomputer that's intelligent. It's not a computer with circuits and wires kind of within your body, but it's a living body. And by the way, the mind is stored in the entire body. That's why a person can get a massage and emotions can come up. A person can do a cleanse or detox and something's in your colon, your small intestines, and you're going to feel like emotionally, as soon as it eliminates, comes out, all of a sudden you feel better. The mind and the body are interconnected. They're not the same, they're interconnected. And the mind is actually stored in the entire body. It's not just in the head. The thoughts come through the head, of course, but it's all that. So for you to check in and develop your unconscious mind is one thing. But also you've seen it in class where you can get in deep rapport with yourself and the other person. So you start getting insights. This is in the spiritual world, it's called insights. So mental pictures is something that the mind creates. And if you can change the characteristics, you can change like a TV screen, you can change the tint, you can change the color, shape, and size. Then if you can change the picture at all, it's coming from the mind. If you cannot change the picture at all, and it feels great, it's coming directly from source, directly from your higher consciousness. It's called an insight. That's how you differentiate the two. But the more you develop in the relationship with your unconscious mind, and of course your higher consciousness, your deeper consciousness that's built within you, you'll start to get more and more information. And you can actually, for you specifically, Jenny, I would say ask your higher conscious mind and higher consciousness to speak for you or through you. And you just show up. You go in peripheral awareness, which is what we teach, and it just takes over. You're in that flow state. And the more you invest time in that flow state, it flows over to other areas of life. How many people would love to be in flow state financially, making all the right financial decisions? That will happen if you're in peripheral awareness. However, the right decisions might not add up to what the conscious mind thinks. You might actually do an investment and lose 10 grand and then say, oh, okay, what was that for? So I actually learned a lesson. Most people that have a high level wealth consciousness, their failures are the biggest breakthroughs, the biggest gold nuggets, because it wasn't until I failed this strategy, this delivery system, until I learned something different. So that's what I would say for you, Jenny.
Awesome. So
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for coming this morning and letting us see your beautiful faces. Our next and our final webinar series for this summer webinar series is going to be on October 13th. That's a Saturday, same time, whatever time zone you're in, as this call was today. I would love to mention that our London training is a 16-day training where there's 1 day of integration in between two modules of 8 days and then a 7-day period. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The group that has already formed are beautiful light beings, change makers, and spiritual butterflies, people who really want to grow themselves and then share that with others as well. For anybody looking to have a deepening or continuing education experience, I can tell you that this is going to be completely different than anything that your mind may be saying that you've already experienced before. Much of the course is absolutely channeled for who has shown up there. And we go from psychological to spiritual to wealth to body consciousness. And it oscillates between all of them and is taught at different levels based on who's showing up. It's super magical. So if you're looking to attend for the first time for personal growth and development, if you're already a coach and want continuing education because you're a student of life and want to keep growing, this is great training for that as well. We do have an early bird special for the London training that's through September 24th. And so if you want to learn more about that and all of the awesome details, you can go to IntraAwareness.com and then /London with a capital L. So those are the updates I have for you for now. I look forward to seeing you all on October 13th for our next training.
And one more thing before we take off is anyone who's going to be a student of this training, of my training, and all my students can vouch for it, but anyone who's going to be a new student, up-and-coming student of this training, you need to know that I will give you 100% of myself, all of my total being, all of my resources. My intention is to clear as much as possible from you from the training. Think about what that means. And I really wish your future self can come to you right now and tell you what that would be like, to give you an experience now, what that would be like to have this stuff cleared, not only from you, but possibly if you have children, from them too. Well, from children too, not even possibly. Because if you have something in it, it flows downstream, but also upstream is your parents and your family. So we're going to do a lot of family clearing, ancestral clearing on a very, very deep level that's going to remove financial blocks, remove health blocks from you, remove limitations from you. So my intention is to do maximums 100%. I really want you to understand what that means. Those aren't just nice words. You might have a personality or a part that's saying, oh, I love that, that's great. But you're going to feel some uncomfortable things because uncomfortability precedes growth. It's going to be totally fine. It's all great, but it's the real deal. It's the real deal. It's going to be direct. It's going to be clear. I don't care how long you've had it. I don't care how deep it is. I don't care how many people failed to resolve it in the past. None of that matters to me. It matters to me that you tried, but here it's going to be the final blow. So we're going to remove as much as possible, give you as much as possible, support, resources, and tools. And why am I doing this? Because I want you to do what you're here to do. I want you to succeed. Why? What would that do for me? Make a better planet, and that makes me happy. That lights me up. It increases the level of consciousness around you. If you're more skilled, if your mental load has been lightened, your emotional healing's been cleared, your financial tools have been installed, so to speak, and upgrading and operating, you're going to positively impact and influence people around. And I am a world traveler, so everywhere I go, I want a friend. That's my ideal world, is wherever I go, I can just go and stay in anyone's house, and that's part. You come to my house, this is great. It's a nice idea. Maybe we're hundreds of years off, but it doesn't matter. That's the direction I'm heading. So I'm selfishly want you to grow because I want a better world for myself and for you. So thank you for considering it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for asking your questions. We'll see you on the next website or the webcast, and have a great day. Sending a lot of love and light to you guys.